This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for March 10th, 2024. This is episode 30 in season 13 and episode 415 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. I am your host. Thank you very much for joining us this week. And I'm Bob Howard, of course. And an interesting couple games just happened for the Binghamton Black Bears. We'll talk about that. We'll break that down. We'll take a look at it. Are they making progress? I think they are making progress towards getting back to where they need to be. But it isn't going to happen overnight. It isn't going to happen just because someone says, hey, they have an 18-man playing roster, so let's just, get back to what we were. There are still key figures off this team that were here when they were playing so well. Brendan Stanko, Matthew Ballard, not here, okay? So it's not going to happen overnight, but I think they made progress. I think they made some leaps forward that will help them in the future. All right, the Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search for Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Every single day, I'm approving people all the time to join the Facebook group. It's where you're going to hear all the information about the Power Play Post Show, including our next guests, who they might be. And we have a pretty big one coming up this upcoming week, so we're really excited about that. So join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. If you're listening to this because you saw this on one of the other Facebook groups or you found the Power Play Post Show, please go to Facebook and join the Facebook group. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And on this edition of the Power Play Post Show, we'll have 6 more questions with Binghamton Black Bears forward Josh Fletcher. That'll be up in the halfway point of this show. But, of course, the Binghamton Black Bears did play 2 games this weekend. Probably felt nice to only play 2 games instead of either 1 or 3 or 4 and 6 nights. But they did. They played 2 games on Friday night and Saturday night. Both were on the road. Friday night's game was in Elmira, and Saturday night's game was in Danbury. And again, we've played Danbury so many times. I'm sure Danbury and Binghamton, everybody is sick and tired of playing each other. But on Friday night, we played the Elmira River Sharks. Now, remember, Elmira and Watertown, we're going to play those guys 13 times each as well. So 18 for Danbury, 13 for Elmira and Watertown. It's still a lot of games. And it's just like to play against just, 3 teams. You get sick of each other. You know each other really well. You know your tendencies, things of that nature once you get to these points. But it was a 5-3 win in Elmira, which was kind of nice. I'm sure the Black Bears were happy with that. It didn't start off the greatest, but I think it ended a lot better. And the Black Bears started off at 9:21, getting a goal from Austin Thompson. Tyson Kirkby and Austin Thompson hooked up on the power play. That was the start of the game. And it's like, oh, okay, all right. Black Bears are up, winning 1-0 on the road in Elmira. They've had some troubles in Elmira. They've lost 2 games in regulation in Elmira. They've lost a overtime game in Elmira. So Elmira has been a little bit of a thorn in the side of Binghamton. Now, of course, Binghamton has beat them all 4 times in Binghamton. So we're good there, right? We're good there. But they started off the game with about the halfway point of the first period with a goal. And then in a factor of 3 minutes and 15 seconds, Elmira fires off 3 goals. Dominic Dumas starts off the scoring at the 10:35 mark. David Gaeta then at the 13:07 mark. And then literally just 43 seconds later, Stephen Klink gets his first goal of the game. And it's now 3-1 Elmira. And it's just like everyone's probably a little bit in shock. The Black Bears players, Coach Sherwood, he calls a timeout right after the Stephen Klink goal. And everybody's probably shaking their heads going, what the heck is going on here, right? We're going to lose again in Elmira. They just lost on March 1st, the only game the week prior, 6-3, and it's already 3-1 at the end of, well, not even, almost three-quarters of the way into the game. It was 3-1. And I can imagine everybody was probably a little up in arms. But the Black Bears, and I don't have the numbers. I got to go and research the numbers sometime this week. The Black Bears come back. They've come back in games when they've been down more than a goal, and they've been down by 2 goals and sometimes even 3 goals, and they've come back. And that's what they did in this game. They fought back. They did what they could. In the second period, 7:47 mark, Austin Thompson scores again. This time Dan Weber got the assist. And all of a sudden, it's 3-2. You know, and less than 3 minutes later, the Josh Fletcher, who was on the show this past week, he gets on the score sheet at 10:05, and it's now tied 3-3. And the game is starting to change. You could feel that the Black Bears were just getting better chances and playing better. And then Dakota Bond scores near the end of the second period at the 18:57 mark. And all of a sudden now the game's 4-3. And then Dan Stone in the third period, which was a very quiet third period. I thought the Black Bears played some pretty good defense in the third period as Elmira started to try to pick it up, try to get back into the game. I thought Connor McAnanama played well after the first 20 minutes. I thought he settled down. It's been a while since he's played, like 3 weeks, right? Probably 3 weeks since he'd been in net. Nolan Egbert played all the 1 week, and then he played the game in Elmira the week before, right? So you literally had Connor being off for such a long time. I didn't think he looked bad in the first period, but there was probably a goal or two that he would have liked to had a second chance at. So Dan Stone gets the empty net goal. It's 5-3. And you can walk away from that game going, okay, all right, so we did this again. We lost 6-3 2 months ago, came back, won 10-2, lost 6-3 the week before this, come back and win 5-3. So, you know, thorn in the side, but maybe Elmira's just playing better hockey. Maybe Elmira and Tyler Jurich are just getting into the groove. It just took a little while. I mean, let's be honest. This is not the same Fed as last year. You have teams that are going to be in last place and potentially have 20 wins. Watertown is at 15 wins right now. All right, so 15 wins right now. They're in last place. They could still get 5 more wins by the end of the season and have 20 wins. Mississippi, who we play next week, who are 4th in the division in the Continental, have 20 wins. This is not the same league as it was last year. There's parity, and teams are playing better. Okay? So, without a doubt, Elmira being in 4th place in the Empire Division doesn't play like Elmira being in last place last year, where they couldn't get a win. This is not, we don't have a Delaware Thunder this year. You know, even in the Continental Division, the worst team is still 3 times better than Delaware was last year, than Elmira was last year. And that's Baton Rouge. And I'm not picking on Baton Rouge. I'm actually saying that they're a better team than the worst teams last year. So the fact of the matter is we're not going to win every game. Columbus, I think, has a little bit of an easier schedule, being that they play Blue Ridge, who's playing better now, but they played them a lot before, and they played Baton Rouge. And I'm not saying Baton Rouge is horrible because, again, I'm saying that they're better than last year. But Columbus has played some weak teams, and I think if we break down, and maybe Gary Ryan, if you're listening, Gary, I would really love to see what the winning percentage of the teams that both Columbus and Binghamton have played. I don't know if my brain can handle that kind of math this week, but if somebody can do that, take all the wins for Columbus against the teams that they've beat and all the winning percentage of all the teams that Binghamton has beat, maybe the points percentage, however you want to figure it out, and then come up with a number. I'm going to guess that the winning percentage of the Binghamton teams that they've beat is higher than Columbus. And that's how you determine the strength of schedule, right? And I think that Binghamton has played against teams who have won more. Again, the numbers will figure that out. If Gary doesn't do it because his brain is broken right now, too, with being sick, same with mine. So then we get to, I don't think there was anything really else in the Elmira game that it really was to note. There was 2 penalties by the Black Bears, a legal check to the heads. That I really just hate that penalty. I think Donald Oliveira got one and Jesse Anderson got one. I'm glad that the league probably reviewed and looked at it and saw that these guys were not headhunting, that they weren't doing anything, and there was no suspensions in order. That was really good. So that's very important. Now, Binghamton did get one power play goal this weekend, and it was in the game. It was the first goal of the game in Elmira. So that's important. That game, it's a win. We can move away from that. No big deal. No Jake Schultz this weekend. He was out on a family matter, taking care of some stuff. So, need to get him back in. We need to get him really rolling. Get him playing in like 10 straight games or something, because I worry that Jake Schultz is not going to be ready for the playoffs. I really do. And I really think that the Black Bears need a Jake Schultz. But if I will also argue this, and I'm going to say this here, it's going to be controversial. I know people are not going to like to hear this. I think Matthew Bullard might be a better defenseman for Binghamton going into the playoffs than Jake Schultz. Jake Schultz, since he's come back from Worcester, hasn't been the Jake Schultz that we know and love from last year, the captain of the Black Bears. And the defense, he had a couple good fights, I think one good fight, but he hasn't been the same guy. And so I'm just throwing it out there that I think if Matthew Bullard can come back, he's the guy that I would want in. And maybe not Jake Schultz, especially with Colin Fitzgerald being back, right? Because these are guys that have been playing every single game that they can play. And that's important, right? Because you're in game shape. You're ready to play. You're set. And I'm not saying that Jake Schultz isn't ready to play. But if his head isn't in the game like these guys, then obviously I would like to see Bullard, and, of course, Colin Fitzgerald playing in the games. And, again, it's nothing against Jake, but if you're not ready, anybody is replaceable. That's the way you got to look at it. All right, so let's go into Saturday's game. Breakdown of Saturday's game versus Danbury. In Danbury, now, it was a 5-4 overtime loss to Danbury. And there's some positives you can take out of this game, okay? So they start off the scoring in the first period. Johnny Ruiz, the captain of the Danbury Hat Tricks, he gets a goal at the 2:16 mark. But not to be outdone is Tyson Kirkby coming back 21 seconds later, next shift later, he scores a goal and ties the game up. It's like Danbury says, hey, this is our town, this is our rink, we're going to score a goal. And Tyson's like, hey, we're the best team in the division. We're going to come back, and we're going to score a goal. Gavin Yates, Donald Oliveira, that top line, getting the assist on the Tyson Kirkby goal, right? So then we go another 8 or 9 minutes. Jesse Anderson gets a goal. We go up 2-1. Connor Smith and Jacob Walters, JT Walters, gets the assist on that goal. Now we're up 2-1. But Danbury being Danbury, right? A thorn in our side, just like Elmira kind of is, right? It's just like Watertown really is. Let's be honest. You know, those 3 teams are all a thorn in our sides, and we haven't played Motor City enough for them to be a thorn in anybody's side, right? Hopefully the schedule's better next year, and we see Motortown, Motor City, and Port Huron more. Danville coming into the league. We'll probably be in the same division with them. Hopefully we'll play them a fair amount of times. Like, I don't want to see somebody 18 times, and then see somebody else in the division just 4 times or 5 times like Motor City. I mean, it's just not enough. It's too much disparity. You know what? Send them out there for a couple road trips. It's not going to kill them. It's not going to kill the league. It's not going to kill Andreas and his travel expenses. Don't. I'm getting off on a tangent now. So okay. So Danbury comes back. Michael Phalangia, he scores at the 13:10 mark. We're tied 2-2. Okay. All right, fine. You know, if you're going to a new period and you're tied, it's like being scoreless, right? It's okay. However, Chase Harwell gets credited for a goal at the 3:56 mark. Now, I'm gonna say something, and I know people are gonna think, "Oh, you're picking on Gavin Yates." No, I'm not picking on Gavin Yates. Gavin Yates has made some mistakes this year. I'm not going to pussyfoot around. I'm not going to tell you that he hasn't. He's gotten suspended twice for things that he knows he shouldn't have done. It's fine, right? And you know what? The tipped-in goal, it happens. Like I said in my day after game report, these guys are mortals. These are just human beings. If he turns his stick just a different way, it may not go in. It may have still hit the stick no matter which way his stick was pointed, and it pops up over and goes in. Okay? I'm not blaming Gavin Yates on that. Chase Harwell gets the goal. Danbury goes up 3-2. Then, 2 minutes later, Chase Harwell gets another goal. So now they're up 4-2. But then Gavin Yates, being the reason why we need to have Gavin Yates on this team, he comes back and he scores in the second period as well. Just a couple minutes later, gets one back. It's now 4-3. Donald Oliveri and Dakota Bong get the assist on that goal, right? And then at the 13:19 mark of the third period, you know, is it Binghamton was pressuring at times, but then so was Danbury. And I want to say this right now. In the third period, I thought Nolan Egbert played great. I thought when I went back and I looked at some of the plays that he made, this game could have been out of reach for the Black Bears in the first 10 minutes of that third period. But he made the saves he needed to make. Okay? I just want to say that. Okay? Justin Samaro gets the goal, 13:19 mark, and Binghamton is up. Binghamton ties the game. It's 4-4, right? So again, when Binghamton could have been put out of reach, they fought back. They got the point. They went into this. They got a point. They got another point towards, winning the division, right? Now, in the overtime, excuse me, sorry about that, guys. I'm still recovering from my sickness. I do apologize. Daniel McKittrick and Nolan Egbert and another Binghamton defender, they kind of all come together. Outside of the crease, okay, no one seems to come towards the defender, the attacker. Okay, we'll call them the attacker because they're in the O zone. Danbury's in their O zone. Binghamton's obviously in their defensive zone. So the Danbury attacker he's doing what he's doing. He's playing. He's trying to play the puck. I don't think he was going after Eggy at all. Right? Eggy comes close. Now Eggy comes out of the net, and I know people are upset about this, but Eggy comes out of the net because he plays that type of game. Okay, it is different than Sam's game. It's different than Connor's game. The three of them, none of them play the same game when it comes to in goal. Okay, now I thought that the weekend that Eggy played 3 games in a row, he stayed in the crease a lot more, and he stayed low to the ice a lot, and I think that was a benefit to him. Okay, but he likes to come out and play the angles. Right? Because if you come out and you cut off the angle, he has got nowhere to go but to maybe try to make a pass. Either way, it's not goalie interference. Not the way I saw it. Okay? And again, another reason for me saying that is because stop making excuses, right? Stop making excuses. Binghamton probably shouldn't have been in that position, but you know what? It's good that they were in that position to even make that play or have to try to make that play because they could have lost all 3 points. Instead, they still walked out of there with a point. Guys sometimes look at the positive because this is a growth here, right? Adversity is sometimes breeds the best growth. Winning all the time does not breed growth. Okay, it doesn't. It creates a stagnant of whatever, and then when you go and you face a Columbus, you got to be able to win every type of game you can to go against a Columbus because they're going to be good. Because the one thing Columbus is going to have if we make it to the finals against them is effing confidence. And the one thing that I'm going to say about this team here in Binghamton is they have the ability, the confidence that they know that they can come back from anything. And yeah, they lost this game to Danbury. Big freaking deal. They've also played Danbury 15 times. Okay? But they've straight up beat them 9 times of those 15 games. And they still have 3 games left. And if they win those 3 games, then Tyson Kirkby, what he said at the beginning of the season, winning 12 out of 6 is possible, becomes a reality. So, no, not a lot of penalties in this game. I thought it was a pretty clean game between both teams. There was obviously the one incident. So the boarding, I think it was a boarding major that happened. I understand the call. I don't think it was necessarily directly the dirtiest play in the world. So you get over it and you move on. Again, this team got 4 points this weekend, getting closer to that magic number to become division champions. Motor City won today on Sunday, so that isn't going to happen yet. But I thought this was still a good weekend for the Binghamton Black Bears, and I hope that they come out of it thinking that they had a good weekend, right? Yeah, sure, they want to win every game. Of course they want to win every game, but they're not going to. And so are there benefits to the game in Danbury where you can go back and look at the film and see what you did wrong and see what you did right and you learn from that? Absolutely. And that's how you got to look at it. So I've talked way too much about these 2 games. But again, I do think that the Black Bears did well this weekend. I thought they made progress. They played with 18 players. You got Stefan. You got Stefan in there. You got Colin Fitzgerald back, which, listen, guys, Colin Fitzgerald is a great defenseman, and I don't even care if he comes up on the score sheets. Some of the things that I saw him doing in the defensive zone is just good. It's the reason why he spent a good amount of time up in the SPHL this year. He's back. He needs to play in the next 14 games. He's got 1 game in. He's got 14 games to go. So no injuries, no stupid penalties, no craziness. Just play and get yourself into the playoffs for the 3rd straight year for Colin Fitzgerald. I think that will be good. I'm worried that Robbie Nelson Jr. is probably not going to make it, but that's okay because I think with Colin Fitzgerald and potentially Matthew Billard coming down, Robbie Nelson Jr., he could be a player for next year. So don't worry about that too much. I'm not worried about it. I don't even think Coach Sherwood is as well. Okay, so I'm going to take a break, rest my voice for a few minutes. You're going to listen to 6 more questions with Josh Fletcher. And then when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the standings and where everything stands. And then what we'll do is I'll also talk about the upcoming 3 games for just a few seconds. And then we'll announce next week's guest, which, folks, you're just going to absolutely love. So stay tuned, because you're going to want to hear who's coming up on the Power Play Post Show this Thursday. It's going to be a pretty cool conversation, and so we'll get to that in a few minutes. So, okay, so coming up next year on the Power Play Post Show, 6 more questions with Josh Fletcher. We'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Hi, this is Don Biggs from the 92-93 Binghamton Rangers. Hi, this is Brandon Buczynski.
This is Grady Wittenberg, the voice of the Binghamton Senators, and you're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. 6 more questions with our friend Josh Fletcher. Josh, you ready for these?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So number one, to this point in your hockey playing career, what has been your greatest achievement?
Greatest achievement? Well, honestly, it'd probably be getting up here to Binghamton. It's always been my dream to play hockey for a living, and going through all of my junior, I won a championship when I was younger. That should also be one of them. But just to see the progression of my career has honestly been the most rewarding thing for me in this sport, is to see that I've kept on pushing myself and stuck with something for so long.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, number two. Are you a Nintendo, Xbox, or PlayStation player? And I probably should add PC in there because some of the guys have said, oh, can I pick PC instead? And what is your go-to game?
Okay, no, for sure. So when I was younger, actually, my first system ever was a GameCube.
Oh, okay.
So I want to say Nintendo, but I spend a lot of time with the guys in the living room playing NHL on the Xbox. But I also do PC games, so it's a little mix of everything, but I want to say I've always been a Nintendo guy by heart. I've always just had one of their products, and ever since I was a little kid. So.
Okay, now I know Connor Mack likes to play the NHL game. Who else on the team likes to play the NHL game?
We got our Dylan, our equipment manager. We get him on every once in a while. We got Schulte coming over to hang out and play with us every once in a while. I would say me and Mac are definitely the most consistent playing all the time together. But we have quite a few of the teammates coming in and playing.
Now, if you play Calgary, who does he play?
Well, he'd play as Boston, but we usually play together, which is a little bit more fun because things get pretty competitive.
Cool.
You know?
All right. Number three, are you a rock, country, or hip-hop music lover, and who is your go-to artist?
I'd have to say country, just because of it's around Calgary so much. And Stampede. And just I've always enjoyed it. And Jake Owen, when it comes to country, has always been a favorite of mine.
Gotcha. Now, did you wear a cowboy hat during the country game?
So I only brought my cowboy T-shirts. I didn't bring my hat or boots because that back out.
So you do have boots. You do have boots.
Oh, I have boots. I've lots of boots, lots of cowboy hats. You get to dress up for 10 days in Calgary, and
nice.
No, one day hopefully I'll hop on a bull, and then I'll start wearing them in public because I can consider myself an actual cowboy.
Fair enough. But listen, I had cowboy boots all through when I was a kid and everything, and I haven't had any in probably 20 or 30 years. So, but now I feel like because of Cowboy being on the team and Dan Weber being on the team, it's like I feel like I almost if I don't ride a bull, I'm not allowed to have cowboy boots. I'm just saying.
I know that's how I've felt growing up. But no, you're allowed to wear them.
Okay, good.
It's a way of dressing, and it's even back home, everybody wears cowboy boots, and even though they don't wear them to work every day and stuff, it's still the theme of country.
Well, I used to work on a farm, so I mean it was just natural to have them on.
Full access.
Yeah, okay.
You have the full green light to wear cowboy boots whenever you want.
I like it. All right, thank you. Number 4, who is the funniest guy in the locker room?
Funniest guy in the locker room, that's a tough one. I'll have to split it between Dan Stone because he has that Western Canadian humor for me and just the humor I love. And then I live with Dan Weber and in the dressing room as well. He's just hilarious. He could be having a bad day, and you could just look at him and start laughing. So. Fair
enough. All right, what is your go-to? This is number 5. What is your go-to cheat meal or snack that you would say is not in your normal diet?
Well, I have an obsession with strawberry milkshakes, so I definitely have to say that.
Okay.
But it's hard for me to say that's not in my normal diet because whenever I want a treat, that is. So, yeah, I guess that is my cheat meal, but probably more often than it should be.
In the Binghamton area, where do you think is the best place to get one?
I've only tried McDonald's here in Binghamton. So.
But you like it? That's the one you like?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you can't fix something that's not broken. That's what I always say.
Fair enough. Sonic is really good, too, so I would recommend Sonic. Yeah.
Okay. I've only had Sonic once. Never had a milkshake from there, but I'll have to try it.
You have to. Oh, it's so good. Yeah, you know what? I almost feel bad about the hot dogs and the fries I get from there because I literally will have the milkshake first, and then whatever my stomach can take on from the hot dogs and the fries, So I feel bad for the fries and the hot dog, but you know what? The shake is just so good. So
I feel that.
All right, number 6, the final question. A zombie outbreak has happened. And yes, it's going to happen someday. With the way this world is, it's going to happen.
and you're locked in an ice hockey arena. Who is the one person, dead or alive, that you would want there with you?
Ooh, see, dead or alive.
Yeah.
And it can be anybody.
It can be anybody. Anybody you want.
Okay, well, Chuck Norris would be pretty cool because it's Chuck Norris, and I feel like I could relax while he takes on most of the people. But I'd like to just see like Sylvester Stallone as Rambo with me. Like,
nice.
The character, if he was a real life guy, I want to see that. And then I could really just relax and let him spray.
Yeah, I like it. That works for me. It's probably one of the better answers that I've gotten so far. I like it. You might as well have somebody that A, can either entertain you and B, also kill zombies, right? Because that's why
100%.
That's why you'd want them there and everything. Josh, thank you very much. As always, great talking to you, and thank you very much.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for having me.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
All right, welcome back to everybody to the Power Play Post Show. Thank you very much for Josh Fletcher. Hey, maybe Josh Fletcher and I need to go out cowboy boot shopping. Maybe you can help me pick out a good pair of cowboy boots. It's been a long time since I've had some, and I do love the country life. I really do. It's definitely not for my wife. She's definitely not a country girl like that in that sense and everything. But man, you get me out there with some horses and just the hillsides and just riding. Oh, I love it. Maybe I'll have to go get some cowboy boots, and maybe Josh Fletcher. Maybe I can get Connor Smith to come along and help out with my pick. It's been a long time. All right, so let's take a look at the standings after Sunday's games. Now, there were some pretty interesting games in the FPHL on Sunday. Let me just pull up the FPHL page because I didn't have it pulled up here. Motor City beat Wytheville 4-1. Danbury got beat by Elmira. So now what's very interesting is Binghamton beat Elmira on Friday night. Okay. Then they got beat by Danbury in overtime on Saturday night. And then Elmira beats Danbury on Sunday. Now think about that, fans. If you really look at that, that shows you how close these teams are right now. And yes, I still think that Binghamton's the best team in the division. I think they're going to win the division, and I think they're going to make it to the finals. I really, really do, right? But Danbury, Elmira, and Watertown are not as bad as you think, and nobody knows with Motor City because who the hell's played them? We've played them 4 times. Got one more game against them. All right? Watertown beat Port Huron today 11-6, and that was a crazy game. Gary, if you're listening to this, I saw what you said at the end of the game in the YouTube chat that this was just a weird one. There was 5 goals by Watertown to start off the game. Then Port Huron scored 2, and then it went back and forth a little bit. Port Huron was grabbing a couple in the second and the third period. Just crazy. And the penalties, the abuse of officials, game misconducts that people got, citing opponents happened twice. I think one person got that twice, if that's possible. I don't know. So it was just a crazy game. But either way, you had 4 games on a Sunday, and 3 of them included the Empire Division foes. So I waited until those games ended so I can look at the standings with you specifically. So let me blow these up here so I can see them. Binghamton right now, 42 games played. They have played the least amount of games of everybody in the division. So that obviously is good because, they played 4 less than Motor City, Danbury, 3 less than Elmira, 3 less than Watertown. Yes, it means that they have some 3-3s coming up, right? So they have some hard weekends coming up. However, they're in a good place. They're 92 points. They have 29 wins, 6 losses, and 7 overtime losses, 730 points percentage. They're fine. 205 goals scored. and only giving up 131. They're at the best differential in the division with plus 74. Motor City has played 46 games, okay? And they've got 27 wins as well, okay? But they've only got 21 regulation wins. So that's where the points get a little crazy. They've also got 15 losses in regulation. Binghamton's only got 6, so think about that. Even though Binghamton's got 29 wins and Motor City's got 27. So even though it's very close in the win column, it really isn't when you look at the points and how they've garnered those points. Danbury is in third place. They have 23 wins, 17 losses, and 5 overtime losses for 69 points. Elmira right now is 17 points behind Danbury, but for some reason it just feels like they're a lot closer to them than they really are. They have 18 wins, 27 losses, no overtime losses at all. So Elmira either loses in regulation or they just win games, and they've won a couple in overtime, but they don't lose a lot in overtime. But they've only got 52 points. There's 17 behind Danbury, but for some reason, the way they play each other right now, it seems like they have a chance. Watertown, being in last place, has 15 wins, okay? 25 losses and 5 overtime losses for 48 points. They're close enough to Elmira that they could actually make a run on Elmira. Both teams have 11 games left in the regular season. Binghamton has 14 games left. Everybody else either has 11 or 10 games left in this season. So the season is starting to wind down, but I wanted to kind of go over that and everything. I don't think this division is final yet. I think there's some possibilities here. Danbury could catch Motor City. Watertown could catch Elmira. Elmira catching Danbury probably out of hand a little bit, but it is what it is. We'll see. All right, the Black Bears have 3 games and 3 nights coming up this weekend. We'll preview those in our Thursday show, 2 versus Mississippi and 1 against Elmira, all at home. So all 3 of these games are at home. This is probably the easiest 3 games and 3 nights for the Binghamton Black Bears coming up. Now, of course, we don't know what's happening with Mississippi because we've never played Mississippi before, okay? Mississippi right now, they have 20 wins, 21 losses. They're 4th place, okay, and 3 overtime losses for 58 points, okay? So if you put them in our division, they would be in 4th place in our division as well, but 11 points behind Danbury, okay? So we got 2 games against them. We've never played against them before. We'll preview more of that matchup coming up this week on the Power Play Post Show. Now, I am very excited to mention that I'll be recording tomorrow with probably one of the guys that I think a lot of people would like to hear from the most on the Binghamton Black Bears. I will be interviewing tomorrow, and you'll hear on Thursday, the Don of Binghamton. That's right. I'm going to have Donald Oliveri here on the show. I'm going to get as much dirt on Coach Klein, on Coach Sherwood as I can get from Donald Oliveri, and I hope to get as much as I can and everything. I know there's a relationship there between the two. That's why Donald came to play with the Black Bears last year. I can't wait to talk to him about a lot of things, his career, why he's here in Binghamton. That's one of the big questions I'm going to have for him is, why are you here in Binghamton? I know everybody wants to win a championship, and they keep saying that, but it'll be very interesting. All right. So Donald Oliveri, this upcoming week, if you stayed long enough to listen, you know who is going to be on this upcoming week's edition of the Power Play Post Show. All right, the Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search for Power Play Post Show and share with our posts with all of your friends. Check out BinghamtonHockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. Thank you to Rob Lopolis, our MC, John Petitucci, our musical director, and Binghamton Black Bears forward Josh Fletcher for answering 6 more questions. I'm actually really excited about asking Donald Oliveri those 6 questions as well. Plus, we're going to talk to him about his tattoos. If you've not seen his tattoos, the man has sleeves on his legs, on his arms, all over his chest. He is tattooed up, and he's got great stories about these tattoos, and I cannot wait to talk to him about that. So this upcoming week, we have a special interview with Black Bears utility man. That's what I like to call him, because he is a utility man. Can play defense, can play offense, can pretty much do whatever. Might even be able to go behind the bench with Coach Sherwood. Who knows? And someone who likely has dirt on Coach Sherwood. And I'm going to get that dirt. This is going to be one of those hard-hitting interviews, folks. You're going to love it. He's the Don of Binghamton, Donald Oliveri. Folks, thank you very much for listening. I apologize for my voice. Still not 100% yet from being sick and everything. But I am excited for this upcoming interview. 3 great games against the Binghamton for the Binghamton Black Bears coming up this week, plus my interview with Donald Oliveri. Cannot wait for you guys to all hear that. So thank you very much for listening. And I'm Bob Howard. Thank you for listening to the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.